Welcome to Fintech Confidential, bringing you the people, tech, and companies that change how you pay and get paid. Today, we have a fantastic guest joining us from a company that's making waves in the world of student debt management. And with us is Michelle Tran, the head of commercial at Summer.
So there is a $1.7 trillion student loan issue in the U.S. currently. And student loan debt disproportionately affects minorities and females. So minorities and females typically have more student loans. And there's some astronomical numbers of student loans that these people hold. So what Summer does really is use technology to really help them lower that debt, and in some cases completely forgive that debt. And so your employees will save $20,000 through finding the right government programs, from getting their loans forgiven, from using our college planning tools, whatever it is that within our platform, we know that we stand behind that savings. We have a lot of companies now they're very hyper-focused on holistic well-being, which includes financial wellness. So all these, kind of big companies now are like, hey, I need to think about financial wellness, and I have real money to put behind financial wellness too, right? Like that's a big part of it, is making sure the CFO says, okay, how does this impact the bottom line? Is because you're going to have healthier employees, you're going to have better retention rates, you're going to have better recruiting rates if you really provide that right financial wellness platform for employees. And so how do you pull in technology to really help personalize? And I think that's what kind of, again, talking about best-in-class solutions do, is they take all the different data points and different factors to create a personalized solution. The biggest use of technology from a personalization standpoint is helping to create financial plans for individuals. Specifically for student loans, 50% of workers now are Gen Z. 75% of Gen Z have student loan debt. This doesn't even count the folks that don't finish college, right? Like they still have to pay their debt down if they took on debt and didn't finish school. So there's a big population that are sitting with this debt. And so how does an employer help out with that? Be super intentional about who you hire and why, especially when it comes down to including women and including women in executive roles. I get a lot of male founders come to me and be like, hey, can you help? Do you have someone who would be a good fit for the CTO role, et cetera? I don't know anybody. And I'm so thankful that they're even just raising their hand to say, yes, I want a female on my exec team. And I know I don't have any people that I know, so I'm going to reach out and make it happen. I think there's just going to be so much efficiency that we're going to have from AI, and it's just making sure that we use it correctly, that we use it ethically, that we continue to talk about the use of AI. But it's going to be a game changer. It already is, right? It just bring it to people in their everyday life.
Here's a quick message from the Accrued series sponsor. As default rates continue to rise and margins compress in lending, financial organizations are searching for solutions to combine that operational efficiency with innovation. Look no further, as LoanPro allows lenders to enhance their origination, servicing, collections, and payments using the foundation of a modern lending core. Check out loanpro.io to learn more about how over 600 financial organizations have modernized their tech stack with LoanPro. Welcome to Accrued, the Fintech Confidential series presented by LoanPro. In this series, we're deconstructing the complexities of lending and exploring compliance, optimization, modernization, and personalization through insightful conversations with the industry's best. I'm Ted Huff, and here with my co-host Colton Pond, we'll be guiding you through the intricate lending world. Whether you're deep into LendTech or just intrigued on how the technology is reshaping lending, you're in the right place. Now let's dive into another episode of Accrued. Colton, welcome back, man. It's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit. Ted, this time you're with a new background, man. You're in a new space, so it's great to see you.
Yeah, and today we have a fantastic guest joining us from a company that's making waves in the world of student debt management. And with us is Michelle Tran, the head of commercial at Summer.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for today.
So Colton, I always like to have you do your little personal anecdote about, Michelle and Summer and how all of this came to be to having her on the show. Why don't you share that with the audience?
All right, happy to. So I'll give a quick line. One, if you're in fintech and you don't know Michelle, you might not be in fintech, because one of those people across fintech that people know and understand and respect significantly, Michelle, the impact that you've had in fintech. So we're excited to have you on the show, talk through summer, interesting aspects of what you're doing at Summer, but also fintech ecosystem at large, where there's lots of changes. And then I know that you do lots of work within New York City fintech women and what that looks like. Excited to dive in a little bit deeper there. So Michelle, thank you for being on. Excited to get your perspective on fintech.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, you're gonna make me blush. Definitely fintech's been such a journey. I started, I'm so old that when I started in fintech, it wasn't really called fintech, or people were like, what is fintech? So, not necessarily feeling like a dinosaur, but maybe an OG.
Yeah. An OG fintech. I like that.
As I mentioned, our guest today is Michelle Tran, the head of commercial at Summer. Now, Michelle just mentioned she's an OG, which means she's had over 15 years of experience in enterprise sales partnerships around the fintech world. She's held key roles at BlackRock, Apex Clearing Corporation, Harness Wealth, and Vestwell. At BlackRock, she led strategy and growth for global consumer investment tech clients. And at Vestwell, she revamped the 401k offering for small and mid-sized businesses. Michelle is also the founder of NYC Fintech Women. It's a thriving community of over 12,000 women in fintech. And her leadership has earned her a spot among Fintech Magazine's top 100 women in fintech and recognition from Innovative Finance's Women in Finance for 3 years running. But Michelle, she's not just all business. She's the co-founder of the Tiger Collective, featuring the podcast Her Name Is. It explores the stories behind the Asian leaders' names. And believe it or not, her parents named her after the Beatles song Michelle to help her be as a first-generation American. Now, her podcast really highlights her commitment to the diversity in fintech and her heritage. Now, let's not forget about Summer. It is a certified B Corporation dedicated to helping borrowers manage and save on student debt. They combine tech and policy expertise to simplify student loans. Their mission is to help employees manage loans better, find forgiveness options, and lower monthly payments. Summer partners with employers to offer benefits that can save their employees on an average of $40,000 and also reduces employee turnover by approximately 20%. By working with these top employers, unions, and governments across the U.S., Summer has saved borrowers over $1.7 billion. Michelle, it's really great to have you on here. And I want to kick things off by talking about NYC Fintech Women, the impact you've seen it make for women in fintech, and realistically, how your overarching experience in fintech led you to starting it.
Yeah, it's been such a wild ride. And 12,000 members is now 15,000. And also,
whoa!
So it's
congrats.
Thank you. And NYC, I think, is not a misnomer, but we're also now everywhere beyond New York. So while the majority of our members sit in New York, we're also now in California. I myself are in the Bay Area, Chicago. We just did a big event there, Atlanta, Seattle. There's fintech women and supporters everywhere. So yeah, NYC Fintech Women, really the story of how it started was I was in fintech. I had just left BlackRock. I was in a fintech world there, and I went to Apex. And the reason why I went to Apex was because what fintech is doing at that time, is in 2017, was like democratizing investing for everybody, right? Instead of needing to have millions of dollars, you could have $10, you could have $100 and start investing, which is such a game changer when you think about the wealth journey for individuals. But I was struggling. To find people to talk through fintech, really women in fintech, and honestly was going through some issues with being a female in a very male-dominated world. So really how it started was one day I had a really bad meeting. It was, me and 10 males, no knock on males, but it was one of those meetings where someone was kept on talking over me and all these different things. So I was like, you know what? I just got to find this group. So I went home, put in my laptop and my computer, meetup.com, paid $80 and started, I was like, I'm just going to, what day am I free? So I picked a Tuesday, I picked a bar in Flatiron, and on a rainy Tuesday, 16 women showed up. And that was the start of NYC Fintech Women. And from there, it really just ballooned just very naturally. And one of the things, I'm just the most proudest of is when I hear all these amazing stories about the connections that women have made, that men have made as well through our organization, either to find new jobs, to get better deals, to find the right connection points, to get paid more, to invest in certain companies, to find all those different pathways. That's the coolest thing I think about NYC FinTech Women.
I love that. I also love the founding story of like on a rainy day in Flatiron. I actually have Flatiron on 23rd and 6th in Broadway. So I know exactly where you're talking of that cool area. Digging into kind of like the purpose and objective and some of the things you're seeing when it comes to your experience at New York City FinTech Women, what are some of the key challenges that you see within FinTech for women today and the opportunities? I would love to focus on like, what are those opportunities and how do we make sure we expand on those opportunities?
Yeah. So our mission is to empower, connect, and promote women in FinTech. So I think for me, two very key issues that we still go through. One is the promotion piece, right? So promotion, not just from like a pure definition of promoting in a role, but how do you elevate and amplify women who are in FinTech? Because there are so many women who are doing amazing things, and making sure you give them the platform to talk about themselves and to have other talk about them, right? Because if I post about one person, I bet you that's going to hit a ton of other people that they may have not heard some names. And so continuing to making sure that we amplify. And I think just historically too, like people and women especially are just not ready to talk about themselves very much. And so getting through over that barrier to talk about yourself and amplify kind of what you do. And that's still a challenge that we need to face today. And it's getting people to do that for you, and then also to do it yourself. And what we've done is created a couple different platforms to do that. So one is FinTech Female Friday. So every Friday we showcase an amazing woman in FinTech doing something super cool. And then we also every year we have Inspiring FinTech Females. So our IFF, and that's an awards platform. So we recognize 50 to 60 women. But the coolest thing is they get celebrated at the New York Stock Exchange every December. So at the New York Stock Exchange, you have these women who have their faces on top of all the trading stations. There's like, I don't know what, like 20 trading stations. And then their face, like if you think that you're a startup founder, you're trying to raise your A, and now your face is all over the New York Stock Exchange. What does that do to your ability to fundraise? That is huge. And so that's one of the cooler things, is making sure that amplification is there. I just had a chat. We just did a webinar with Anna Mahoney from Addition Wealth. You know, she's a startup founder, super cool. But she's like, being an IFF winner and being able to showcase myself at the New York Stock Exchange led me to be able to raise my next round, got me in front of UBS, like all these different like waterfall effects. So that's the coolest. One other related challenge, though, is the amount of funding that's actually going to female founders. So it's now less than 2% of institutional money is going to female founders. And this is the startups that only have a female founder. The stat with, if you have a female founder plus a male founder, so the combination, you get 15% of the money, institutional money. So there still is a big issue with making sure that institutional funding goes to females. And it's sadly 2023 or 2022 numbers to 2023 went down. So it's actually like 1.8%. So it's no longer 2%, it's 1.8. So we got to change that very quickly.
So let's pivot just a little bit from some of the pieces that are challenges. I would love to hear your favorite success story that you've been part of, especially with female founders.
One of my really favorite ones in the early days was we had a lot of these happy hours, and we'd bring in people to talk about how do you negotiate and how do you raise your salary, because look, every step you take, right, that's just helping you go higher and higher. And one woman came to me and she was like, we had a chat, I go over a glass of wine, and I was telling her, I'm like, no, you need to ask for more. She's like, well, I don't feel comfortable. I think that's pretty high already. I was like, nope, you just need to go in, you just make the ask. Just like channel me in. I can, if I can, I'd go in there with you and make the ask, but I can't. So you need to just say, look, I want 30% more. And she came back to me a couple months later. She's like, I got the job and I asked for 30% more. And they literally did not blink an eye and gave me 30% more. And Like, these are the stories, right? Like,
Yeah.
because she's making 30% more then, that means in her next role, she's going to be able to get more. She's be able to invest more. And so this just puts her on a better financial path. So those are like the cool personal stories. And I think like the Anna Mahoney stories are awesome, right? Like, you have these startup founders who are trying to get on the radar, and by showcasing them in the New York Stock Exchange, they're really able to do that. And one of the cool things too, Lynn Martin, who is the first female president of the New York Stock Exchange, has come out and congratulated each of these women, and to see that real change in the market.
Now let's quickly shine a spotlight on a game changer in the financial world, ClearingWorks. Simplify your financial management with a one-stop solution for all your AR needs and with a single login. Are you intrigued? Visit clearingworks.com to schedule your demo today. That is so cool to hear about that additional support that's happening, but in places that you may not quite expect. But what I want to do is I want to shift just a little bit over, and we don't want to leave summer out of it completely. So let's go ahead and shift a little bit over there and really understand how summer is enhancing the user experience using technology.
The reason why, I just want to start with the reason why I joined Summer. And so when I look at the companies I want to join, obviously it's a big decision. For me, what's really important is, how is technology changing the financial future of an individual? And that is the reason why I joined Apex. That's the reason why I joined Harness, and the reason why I joined Vestwell. Vestwell is a digital retirement platform. So really enabling 401ks, so big retirement, the compounding ability of retirement assets. And Summer, once I understood kind of the issues that we were having around student loan. So there is a $1.7 trillion student loan issue in the U.S. currently. And student loan debt disproportionately affects minorities and females. So minorities and females typically have more student loans. And there's some astronomical numbers of student loans that these people hold. So what Summer does really is use technology to really help them lower that debt, and in some cases completely forgive that debt. And so one of the coolest, we started what we call Forgiveness Fridays. So every Friday we showcase one person who has had their loan forgiven. So a couple of Fridays ago, we showcased a teacher. So this teacher, because of her undergraduate degrees, her graduate degrees, you have to have a graduate degree to be a teacher, she had close to $200,000 in debt. And as you know, teachers don't get paid very much. So she was trying to pay down this huge mountain of debt, but then not a very big salary. Because she's a teacher, because she works in public sector, she can get her loan forgiven. She had $199,000 forgiven. And her story is so amazing in that she was like, look, I no longer have to worry about being default on my mortgage. I can take my kids on vacation. And I can think about saving for retirement now because I don't have this huge overhang. And it's lowering my stress level because, as you can imagine, right, you had this debt hanging over your head. Her mental health, right, is much better now. And so that's kind of the real world impact that Summer's having. And the use of technology is what they're doing is that they're just making it super easy to get some of these loans forgiven, to get some of these government programs. I don't know about you, but have you ever filled out any type of government form? Like, there's a reason why we don't file our taxes directly with IRS, right? Like, there's a reason why we use TurboTax to do, or CPA. It's because they're a beast. You get one little thing wrong, and that's like a waterfall effect. And so what we do is we use technology to help complete and provide access to these programs by enrolling them automatically, filling out forms, and then on the back end, really having the experts review it, but really doing that in 8 minutes or less. If I sat there and tried to fill out a form myself, it would take me forever today. So it's really cool, the use of technology and people.
So I love that vision and the impact that Summer's having within technology. And when we talk about impact, one of the things that Ted mentioned in his intro of Summer is Summer's actually a certified B Corp, which I love and find really fascinating due to like true impact outside of just fintech and technology and financial services. Flashing back to episode 4 or 5, we had Raphael and Samantha from Mascoma Bank on. They're also a certified B Corp, one of the only community banks that's a certified B Corp. So what I'd love to understand, Michelle, let's say I'm a fintech founder or executive of a bank or credit union, and exploring or thinking about, hey, what's this certified B Corp thing? What are the benefits? Why should I do it? Help the audience understand a little bit more about what it is and the impact that it has at Summer and to other organizations who are certified B Corps.
Yeah. And what it really is guiding principles for Summer in terms of how do we create a product? How do we price to really enable impact for our audience, right? And that it is employers and employees and really the individual at the end of the day. And so really when we think about being as a certified B Corp, everything that we do is guided by these principles. For example, we have an impact guarantee. So what that means is when we go out to employers and we're like, look, it costs X amount to use our platform. Let's just say, for example, $10,000. It costs $10,000 to use our platform. What we guarantee for you is that we'll save you, say, 2X in terms of your employees will save that much through our platform. And so your employees will save $20,000 through finding the right government programs, from getting their loans forgiven, from using our college planning tools, whatever it is that within our platform, we know that we stand behind that savings portion for an individual. And so being a certified B Corp, I think, has really helped us understand how to work with employers as well. The interesting thing about the space that I'm in now is that we're talking to a lot of HR leaders. We're talking to a lot of benefit leaders. And look, it's a different world from what I've been in. I was talking to retirement specialists and folks and broker dealers. Everyone at the heart of HR and benefits has a priority to help the employee. So everyone is like, how do I help my employee? I need to think about how does this help their family? And it's really refreshing to have that perspective. I went to the Emerge conference run by Financial Health Network in May, and I was like, this is night and day for some of the conferences I've been at, where everyone is so hyper-focused on helping individuals, which is the coolest thing ever. I mean, I call it my rocking chair moment, right? When you're 80 and you're sitting in your rocking chair and you look back at the world and what all the stuff that you've done, what are some of the things that you talk about in your rocking chair?
I love that. And one of the things I respect the most about you is if you look at companies you've been to and went to, it's about impact. And that's personally my ethos. I was in academia. I left academia to come to Fintech to truly make an impact. And because if you look at some of the stats, I know I've mentioned this before in prior episodes. One of the leading indicator of suicide is financial stress. The leading indicator of divorce is financial stress. It impacts our lives so significantly. And I truly believe that intersection between technology and finance does make an impact, but we've only started to tap the surface of the true impact that it can drive.
It's so amazing what's happened in the past 10 years with technology. And the ability for people to use technology to really have a stronger financial foundation. And that's everything from investing to retirement to student loans across the board. And also, I think you have a lot of companies now are they're very hyper-focused on holistic well-being, which includes financial wellness. So all these, kind of big companies now are like, hey, I need to think about financial wellness, and I have real money to put behind financial wellness too, right? That's a big part of it, is making sure the CFO says, okay, how does this impact the bottom line? Is because you're going to have healthier employees.
Support provided by Skyflow. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? What if you could ensure data privacy, governance, and compliance with just a few API calls? What if you could worry less about PCI requirements while actually improving privacy and security? How much more time would your team have to truly innovate? How much faster could you build and ship new features? How much more powerful could your app be? Skyflow is a zero-trust data privacy vault delivered as an API. Skyflow's radically simple design lets you collect, secure, and tokenize personal information like card data and payment details. And with built-in features like encrypted data analysis and sharing, anonymization, and advanced governance, your days of choosing between data security and data usability are over. Whether you're just concerned with PCI compliance or need to go further to include CCPA, GDPR, SOC 2, and beyond, Skyflow has you covered. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? With Skyflow, you can. Visit skyflowsecure.com today to learn how.
You're going to have better retention rates. You're going to have better recruiting rates if you really provide that right financial wellness platform for employees. And for me, the thing that I always talk about too is what's really important is making sure that those financial wellness platforms are actionable. Because education's great. Don't get me wrong. Education's great. Like just making sure you're informed is fantastic. But what do people do with education, right? Most people just don't do anything at all. So they read it, great, I get to X, Y, and Z, but taking that next step and making it real and putting the dollars back into that person in whatever form is that impact and that game changer.
Can you share with us like a couple examples of maybe how Summer is leveraging the technology to make that impact, to move them forward beyond the education?
One of the coolest things now, so Secure Act 2.0 started a provision where whatever you put into your student loan, an employer can match that into 401k. So you kind of take a step back and you think, okay, Michelle Tran, I have a student loan. What am I going to prioritize? Am I going to put money into my 401k? No, I'm going to put money into my student loan because that's what I got to pay down. But now employers have the ability to match. So if I put now $100 into my student loan, my employer says, great, I see that you put $100 into your student loan, and I'm going to put $100 into your 401k. And then that compounding ability of that $100 month after month could mean, the ability to just live in retirement. And so what Summer has done is created a tool where we can verify the student loan payment for employers. And then once that employer has that data, then they send the contribution to the record keeper and to the 401k record keeper. And that portion is really important because the connectivity to loan, and there's so many different loan servicers, right? So how do you make it one for an individual to just very quickly sync up and verify their loans to all these hundreds of loan providers out there in the market, and then quickly get that data back to facilitate that money movement into the 401k. And so that's the technology piece that is really, I think, one of the bigger impact pieces of student loans that have come out recently. Because it's a relatively new provision, it started in January of 2024, and so we're about 7 months in, and so you're seeing an adoption of this over time. We have just launched a partnership with ADP for their ADP retirement services, where this technology is being used by a lot of their clients, and then that really helps to facilitate that loan matching.
I love that example because on the show oftentimes and in other places, folks talk about kind of innovation and regulation at odds almost, right? That's a good example of regulation kind of pushing innovation and pushing forward impact and what that looks like. Taking a step back when we think about regulation and what that's like, you as a OG Fintech, I also thought like we have the PayPal mafia, we can have the Fintech mafia, right? Like Michelle talking about Fintech mafia. Give us your perspective on regulatory environment. It's a hot take right now, right? Especially as it pertains to financial services and how you've seen best-in-class companies manage and balance innovation with compliance and regulation and what that looks like moving forward.
I've seen best-in-class companies lean into regulation to their benefit, right? And taking the complexities of regulation out for users. And so a couple different examples. One is my previous company that was at Vestwell. So there's a regulation across many states where if you're an employer of a certain size, so in California, if you have 5 or more employees, you have to offer a retirement solution. And so what that means is like, look, if you're a cupcake store and you have 5 employees, then you have to offer some type of retirement solution. Is it through a record keeper or is it through the state of California? But that's where technology has really come in to change the game there, right? Like Vestwell has supported a number of different states like Oregon, et cetera, and really enabling these small businesses who like, look, this is not the first thing that they're going to wake up and think about, right? Like they got to pay the bills, they got to get the lights on, they got to put the cupcakes out. And so how do you make it so super easy for them to offer and to meet this regulation? So that's number one. On the student loan side, really optimizing what Summer does at its core is optimizing government programs. And so there's a ton of government programs that basically are offering free money to help reduce your monthly student loan debt. But one, you have to find what these programs are. You have to figure out, okay, are you eligible? And then you have to apply for it. Do I have the time in my day to do that? And, do I work at a cupcake store and then I have a ton of student debt? And like, that's not going to be the first thing I think about. Like, I'm going to go pick up my kids and, clean my house or something. And then I have to shift through all these forms and figure out how to fill them out. And so that's where great companies like Summer and Vestwell kind of meet in the middle in terms of just making it so super easy for individuals, for employers to clear through the mess of what regulation is telling them to do, or what regulation is providing and giving them an opportunity to do. And so I think that's the coolest thing, because at the end of the day, you got to make it easy, right? It's always about the easy button. If you don't make it easy, no one's going to do it. And so that's really kind of, I think, the best companies do that well.
You give a great example at the beginning on like no one files their taxes with the IRS, and it's true, right? So a lot of people look at compliance and some of the stuff that CFPB and others are doing is like, oh man, this is slowing us down. I love the perspective of companies that win are going to be those that simplify compliance and streamline what that looks like and create guardrails to drive further innovation within the bounds of compliance.
I think the sleeper winners across fintech are those that are helping compliance. And this is like across everything, like wealth tech compliance companies, because it's such a barrier in so many different cases. And so if you're taking those like huge barriers down, like these are sleeper win stories that we're going to see emerge.
So I want to switch it a little bit more back into, you've mentioned more about the experience, because you've talked about simplifying, you've talked about getting them access to things that maybe they didn't know about, walking them through that. How do you see that at Summer and elsewhere evolving to really help the users get through that and get the ongoing support that they need when maybe things don't go as expected?
Like the user experience right now at Summer is, to get to these government programs and to fill out these forms is under 10 minutes. So, and I can sit on my phone and do it in under 10 minutes. And whereas I think that's the first part. The second part is, not to be cliche, but the use of AI to help drive and make things a lot simpler and pulling in data, right? Like you see all these different connectivity points, the use of programs like Plaid to help connect, like all these connection points to make things go faster, and actually not only faster, but more accurate, right? Because inaccurate information is always a slowdown. And so that's using AI to really ensure that there is accurate information, to ensure that when people are entering in data, that it's correct, or pulling in data itself. There's a lot of, there's some complexities in terms of like behind the scenes, like you have to get eligibility files, census files, all these different things behind the scenes to get set up, and making sure that we're really leaning on technology to facilitate the accurateness of the data. Because if it's not accurate, there's many different impacts that happen downstream.
On the accurateness of the data, my view is best in class fintech and financial services companies have taken accurate data, ingested it to create a true personalized experience. I would love your take on how you do so and how you drive a personalized experience for consumers, and any examples you can think of companies that are truly doing it well and unique and driving personalization forward.
Yeah, personalization is so important, right? Like especially when you think about like financial services and wealth management, is how do you personalize advice at the end of the day? Because everyone is so nuanced and so different, right? Like my scenario, different from you, Ted. Like there's like, we have some commonalities, but our goals are different too. And so how do you pull in technology to really help personalize? And I think that's what kind of, again, talking about best in class solutions do, is they take all the different data points and different factors to create a personalized solution. In Summer's case, what we do is taking in different points or be able to identify kind of like credit score, et cetera, to pull in, okay, are these the right programs? Is this what we want to achieve? I've seen that done well across a lot of wealth tech platforms as well, who are creating personalized advice engines, right? Investing is scary for a lot of people. They just don't understand it. It's, I think the stat is, but people would rather do their dishes than think about, their future finances and engage with a financial advisor. And so it's both, tools that allow a financial advisor or a financial planner to quickly come up with like a budget or a plan and personalize that for the individual, with pulling in credit card debt, pulling in student debt, pulling in assets, houses, vacation homes, savings, whatever it is, and making sure You combine that with goals to create a really great guide, like a path for you as an individual. I think everyone really needs that, right? Like everyone needs to understand, okay, like what are my goals and how do I get there? And I think for me, where I've seen the biggest use of technology from a personalization standpoint is helping to create financial plans for individuals. Look, personally, we have a financial plan. Do I follow it completely? No, I could do a better job. But what it happens is it iterates over time, and it helps me course correct, right? Hey, Michelle, should you really go on that big vacation in Europe? I don't know right now because you have too many children to pay for. So, help me course correct there.
Hey, Ted Huff here. Ever thought about how you could streamline your application and underwriting process? Well, let me introduce you to Under. Why keep using the outdated methods of PDFs when you can digitize them effortlessly? All you gotta do is upload the PDF, send it out for digital signature, and voila, you're set for the digital age. Are you curious how to make that happen? Head over to under.io/FTC and get started for free. It's really that simple. Well, there's a common theme that we've been talking about today is planning for the future, making sure that we have stuff for the future and what's going forward. I'm going to ask you to reach over to the side of the desk, grab your very clear crystal ball, set that down in front of you, and help us understand and share your predictions on how you see financial literacy, addressing social responsibility, and how you see that evolving over the next 3 to 5 years.
Here's my crystal ball. Shake it up. Let me see. What do I see? Where I think it has to hit home is at the workplace, because that is a forcing mechanism. You put it in front of individuals outside of the workplace, there are too many distractions that are happening. You're not prioritizing it. You're not making it easy. It has to be part of the workplace. So and this is where a lot of individuals focus their time and attention, is the workplace benefits, workplace assets. It has to come from there, and also for the employer to facilitate it, right? How do you make that, if you're going to put some action behind it, how do you make the money movement easy from paycheck to bank account, to emergency savings account, to reducing student debt? Like, the employee should be no part of moving that money themselves. The employer needs to do it for them, because otherwise it just won't happen, right? And that, I think, is going to be what is really going to evolve over the next 3 to 5 years, is that it's going to be a bigger and bigger role for the employer to help facilitate, and they're going to want to do it too, right? There's going to be, for DEIB reasons, for retention reasons, for recruiting reasons, specifically for student loans, 50% of workers now are Gen Z. 75% of Gen Z have student loan debt. This doesn't even count the folks that don't finish college, right? Like, they still have to pay their debt down if they took on debt and didn't finish school. So there's a big population that are sitting with this debt. And so how does an employer help out with that? And I think, like, look, as you go through, your employer, kind of where you put your head and your focus on the health, the dental, and all these ancillary benefits on the side, but those are no longer just be on the side because they're so related to your health, right? We usually talk about the biggest cause of suicide is financial stress. And so how do you take out that stress and help with that mental health?
And that then, employers that do this right, that enables employees to actually focus on being more productive and driving impact in the workplace. And it creates this closed loop of like achieving exactly what employers want of impact and productivity and alignment. So I love that. Very unique insight from every other 15 of the episodes we've done so far. I've got 3 rapid fire questions that I need to ask. So just like burning to have an OG fintech here. So you were in fintech before fintech was even a word, right? Very interesting background, starting at BlackRock and then through various fintech companies to where you're at this summer. Look back and give us the one piece of advice you give to a fintech founder just starting out, of like how to drive success and what that looks like.
This is a lens on diversity, is be super intentional about who you hire and why, especially when it comes down to including women in executive roles. I get a lot of male founders come to me and be like, hey, can you help? Do you have someone who would be a good fit for the CTO role, et cetera? I don't know anybody. And I'm so thankful that they're even just raising their hand to say, yes, I want a female on my exec team. And I know I don't have any people that I know, so I'm going to reach out and make it happen. That's going to be the biggest part that's going to change the game, is being super intentional about who you bring on the leadership team. Rapid
fire number 2. Give us like at least 2, but could be more, fintech companies that you're very impressed with right now that are freaking killing it.
Oh,
outside
man. Okay.
Of Invest Well, right? Like, who's killing it from your perspective?
So I'm a big fan of Addition Wealth, as I mentioned, Anna Mahoney. I think she's doing a lot of cool things out there and providing access to wealth. The other cool one I would say is Trust and Will. So Trust and Will, it's a digital experience to create a trust and will, and like similar to student loan applications, like creating a trust with a lawyer. My job at Harness was to actually bring on lawyers to help create trust, and it's such a long, archaic, laborious process, and they're just fully changing the game in terms of just making it really easy. And I think I would couple them with like Wealth.com and Vanilla, kind of in that space, because they're just taking all the complexities out of it and just making it super easy. So those are 2 I would say that are super cool.
Last question, because we got to ask it. AI, you mentioned AI a little bit. AI overrated or underrated, and why?
Underrated. Fully underrated. I think people have looked at this. AI has a bad rap, right? Like, you hear all the headlines, Scarlett Johansson, OpenAI, such a bad rap. But like, hey, raise your hand if you use ChatGPT all the time. I do. I think there's just going to be so much efficiency that we're going to have from AI, and it's just making sure that we use it correctly, that we use it ethically, that we continue to talk about the use of AI. But it's going to be a game changer. Like, it's already is, right? Like, it's just bringing it to people in their everyday life. It's going to be that next step.
Well, that does it for another episode of Accrued. Michelle, thank you for joining us today. It has been really interesting to see this side of fintech. We haven't covered it a lot, and especially coming from an OG in fintech, it's been great to have that information. And I really look forward to seeing what you do with NYC Fintech Women and other items that you're working on today. And I look forward to tuning in to your podcast as well. So with that being said, thank you. And as always, keep moving forward. As we wrap up today's episode, I've got one last thing for you. If you're in the trenches fighting fraud and financial crime, you know it's a complex battlefield. That's where Hawk's AI tools for real-time payment screening, AML, transaction monitoring, and dynamic customer risk rating come into play. These aren't just buzzwords, they're game changers designed to make your compliance more effective and less of a headache. Imagine slashing through false positives with precision and giving your compliance strategy the edge it needs. Head on over to gethawkai.com to sign up for a demo and discover how their platform can revolutionize how you fight fraud and financial crime.
This has been a production of DD3 Media, with all rights reserved. This is provided for informational purposes only. It is not offered or intended to be used as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. We strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, but will not be responsible for any missing facts or inaccurate information. You comply and understand that you should use any of this information at your own risk. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile financial assets, so research and make your own financial decisions.